It's me, Christina, here at the Art Museums of Colonial Williamsburg with another pop culture challenge. Today, we're going to connect an object in our collection with the Broadway musical Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's not hard to make connections with our collection and all of those wonderful stories and characters within that musical, since they were all real people that Lin-Manuel Miranda so beautifully ties together into that story. And certainly when it comes to the musical, there's a wonderful song in Act 1 called Right Hand Man. It talks about Alexander Hamilton meeting up with the general. So here he is, the pride of Mount Vernon, George Washington. I'm standing here with this portrait painted by Charles Willson Peale in 1780. Peale was originally commissioned to paint a portrait for the Supreme Executive Council of Pennsylvania. They would eventually go on to hang that portrait in their state building. Today, it's at the Art Museum in Philadelphia. This portrait was painted just a year later in 1780 and celebrates George Washington at the Battle of Princeton. Huge success for Washington. Whereas if we go back to the musical Hamilton and listen to that song, Right Hand Man, it's George Washington at the Battle of Brooklyn. Not a great success. It's always amazing to me. Those guys, they signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, and then the whole war effort tanks until we get to this battle. This is the battle that began on Christmas Day in 1776. George Washington sails across the Delaware, ends up in New Jersey, fights the Hessians, and 2 weeks later has this ultimate success. Washington and Peale work together to tell that story in this painting. And there are so many great things that you can see and that show off Washington's success. First of all, the first thing that jumps out to me when looking at this painting is the fact that there are battlefield flags on the ground, a sure sign that that battle has been won. Those are the ultimate souvenirs to take home to your government, to show them that you captured that flag of the opposing army. The other detail I want you to take a look at is just on George Washington's left, or the left side of the painting, his right side, the painting's left side. You can see there are soldiers dressed in blue coats leading men dressed in red coats, or British soldiers, off the field, taking them as prisoners of war. And I think that's such an amazing thing to include in that picture. George Washington is dressed head to toe in his military uniform, showing us that he's the general. Notice the epaulets on his shoulders and that blue sash, both telling us that he's the general. And you can see a variety of weapons in the painting. Notice George Washington's sword. You can notice that he's leaning very smugly on a cannon. And if you look behind the horse's head, you can see the bayonets from those muskets. And of course, when it comes to right-hand men, he has one of his aides in the picture. Is it Alexander Hamilton? Probably not. Doesn't look like Hamilton. And I think Peale and Washington together wanted to include another member of his staff, but have it represent all of the men that worked on staff with him during the American Revolution. There are lots of other great objects in our collection that we could connect to the Broadway musical Hamilton. And if you get a chance to search eMuseum, another great object to look at is the Battle of Yorktown, and connect it to a painting in our collection which looks at George Washington and his generals, painted by Charles Willson Peale's son. Thanks so much for joining us for another pop culture challenge here at the Art Museums of Colonial Williamsburg, and I hope you enjoy watching Hamilton streaming on your local network. Thanks for joining.